Hey Daniel, can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Good. Hey Yana, although you're still connecting. All right, as you're coming on, Venetius, can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Very good. Yana, are you there? I see your name, but I don't see you. Are you there, or did you pay someone to sit in your spot for you? Hey James. All right. Everyone's muted, so if you need me, you can use the chat, which should be at the bottom of your. Who is that? Is that? I know it's. Is that John? Okay, and Jared. All right, very good. Jared and John, can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can. Excellent. Hello, Abby. Abby's at her sister's house this week. How's it going, Abby? Thumbs up. You want to move in with Sarah? Maybe. Abby doesn't have to do laundry for the week. She's at her sister's house. Andrew, how's it going, buddy? Andrew, you're looking a little sad, like you need to be back in school. Thumbs up if you want to come back to school. No, you're okay where you are on the couch? You like school on the couch? All right, so let's see. Hello, Sarah. That's my daughter, Sarah, who would have loved to done online school when she was in high school. I'm unmuting you just for a second, Sarah and Abby. Just for a second. All right, I'm muting you back. All right, you're muted now. Let's see. All right, let's see. We have, hey Matt, how's it going? Did you get a haircut for school? All right, so who are we missing? Hey Elizabeth, I see your eyebrows, or I see your eyes, I guess. So there you are. So we have Yana, Elizabeth, let's see, Andrew, Matt. Andrew, you've had a lot of school today, haven't you? You look like your brain's a little overloaded there. So who are we missing? We are missing, I don't have my attendance in front of me. I've not seen Deanna yet. Deanna, that's everybody, right? Deanna's the only one I'm missing. Has she been on earlier today or no? You don't know? Okay. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get ready to get started. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Put your thumb up because I'm not unmuting you right now. Everyone can hear me? Okay. If you need to ask a question or want to say something to me or whatever, use your chat button at the bottom of your screen. I'll answer your questions as they come up. If it's like a general question for like homework, things like that, I'll answer that at the end. But if it has something to do with what we're talking about, I'll answer it as we go forward. One note, Mr. Kidd wanted me to tell you that the Spanish homework you have, you don't need to upload it this time. Tomorrow you'll go over it in class. Because I know Abby had a question. So don't upload it, just do it and be prepared to go over it in class tomorrow. He says in doing that, it may push your quiz back potentially, but he'll let you know about that. Does that make sense for Spanish? Yes? No? Could care less? We're in geography now, right? Spanish is like last period. No one was talking about Spanish. Okay, all right. Go ahead and get your geography books out. We're going to be at 2:13. Let me talk a little bit about what we're doing in geography this quarter or however long we're out. It's going to be what we've always been doing, just going through the book. We're finishing up North America. We're going to be starting South America hopefully soon. Grading is going to be a little bit differently. I don't know if the other teachers have told you. Homework's going to be 60%. So that means your section reviews, things like that are homework. That's 60% of your grade. All your other stuff, quizzes, tests, things like that will be 40% of your grade. Your current events that we've been doing are now becoming homework grades, not current event grades. So you need to make sure you do your current events. We're not doing, sorry if I keep yawning, my earphones make me sound like I'm in a tunnel. I don't like this. Anyway, everyone can still hear me, right? Even though I just messed. Abby, can you hear me? Thank you, Abby, for nodding your head. Appreciate it. I feel like, all right, let me know at any point if you can't hear me. But current events, obviously we're not doing oral current events anymore. It's all going to be written, but you do have to still do current events. I'm still working out how we're going to do the develop your own country for the end of the year. It'll probably be independent now. It won't be in groups like it was, like I planned on it. But let me give you a little bit of work that we're going to do. Okay, your first current event for this quarter is due on Friday. And it can cover anything in North America. Whatever you want, it follows the same plan we had before. Your title, your source, 3 points, and then your opinion on it, or your viewpoint, or how you want to wrap it up. But that's due on Friday. Everything's going to be uploaded. I know your other teachers have been talking about uploading things. I will put a document out on ThinkWave, hopefully later today, about how to upload documents if anybody doesn't understand how to do that. Some of you know how to do it because you did it for the extra credit. It's the same thing, but I'll put that out for you in case you didn't have an opportunity to do the extra credit. But your current event is due on Friday, your first one, and then I will assign homework Wednesday that's due on Friday. I'll tell you about that homework later this week. It is all in ThinkWave if you want to work ahead and do it. I will waive the full sentence requirement for your section reviews moving forward for a little while. You don't have to do complete sentences. Now, that may change later, but while we're still getting used to this new way of doing things, we're going to do no complete sentences. So I hope you appreciate that. Andrew, are you excited? Where's Andrew? Excited, no complete sentences? When you were just getting in the swing of things. But anyway, all right, so let's pick up on page 213. Does everyone have their books with them? 213? Okay, we are going to keep talking about the United States, trying to get through this part of the United States. So if I'm looking at you, I'll talk. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at the book, trying to go through that. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and chat me what you need, and I'll answer your questions for you. So, okay, 213, people and culture. You remember every time we talked about any country, any nation, we always talk about what makes that nation or that country different. A lot of times it's your people, it's your culture, it's your religion, things like that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. United States, obviously, we have a rich, rich history of people and cultures leading back to the Native Americans that were first here, all through the founding of St. Augustine, the oldest city in America in Florida, through the settlement in Jamestown, through the Pilgrims coming over, and immigration. We'll talk tomorrow a lot about what does it mean when people call us a melting pot. We're going to talk about that, a melting pot in regards to immigration. But let's talk a little bit about people and cultures for the United States. So if you look on page 213, it starts off by saying the first Americans were native people whose ancestors came to North America from Asia many centuries ago. And that's what started our richness of the nation that we have as Native Americans. It's said that they came across a land bridge from Asia through Alaska and then kind of just moved south and east from there. It's interesting, when you look at Native Americans, we often don't think of, when we think of our heritage. If I say, describe the heritage of the United States, where do we come from? Describe how we got to where we are today. A lot of times we don't remember the Native Americans. We know they're there, but we focus more on the settlement in Jamestown. We focus more on the Pilgrims coming. We focus on the Revolutionary War. We focus on events like that, but we forget it really started back with the Native Americans. Native Americans are still with us today. Their culture is very prevalent with them, not so much, and they've kind of acclimated themselves more into society to the point where that we don't see them as a different part of society anymore. But it's interesting. I looked up a little bit about Native Americans. I'm always big on the trivia facts and what makes people who they are. And when I looked up, it said an early American scholar described the Native Americans, as well as any other tribal society, as having a society dominated by clans, or it's called Jantis, which is kind of groups. And it's interesting that, and no matter, when we talk about Native Americans, you hear different tribes, the Cherokee tribe, the Apaches, the Navajos, things like that, different tribes, but they all kind of go by the same guidelines, go by the same rules, so to speak. And some of those rules, it says they have the right, all of them have the right to elect its Sachem or its chiefs. And Sachem is like the chiefs of the chiefs. So within each tribe, their individuality plays itself into they get to elect its own leaders, so to speak. Similar to what we do today, we get to elect our own leaders. They have the right to depose those leaders, meaning they have the right to remove them from office. Very similar to what we have today. Now, I'm assuming in their tribal philosophy and their tribal ways of doing things, they probably don't have quite the red tape it takes maybe for the United States to do away with leaders. And when we saw with the impeachment trial, as much as they wanted to impeach Trump and all the different process that you had to go through to finally get to that end. But Native Americans have the right to do that within their own tribe. They have reciprocal obligations of health, defense, and redress of injuries, meaning they work with each other when it comes time to working with helping one another, defending one another. Now, of course, within tribes, there's a lot of tribal warring, so to speak, going on. Maybe not so much today as it has been, years and years and years ago. They also have the right to bestow names on its members. I Googled a lot before class to see if we could come up with how we could come up with our own Native American names. And there's all these games out there you can play, but no true way of doing that. But they have the right to bestow their names, their own names. And sometimes we laugh at Native American names, but there's a method to their madness, so to speak. They're very proud of their names. Their names represent who they are and where they live and what's important to their tribe. They also have the right to adopt strangers into their groups. You often hear of the intermarrying. You hear of white men marrying into tribes, things like that. In fact, that within Native American tribes, they intermarry at higher rates than any other group in the country. So it's interesting, you don't think of that, but it is, especially when you get to more Americanized society, like you get into Hawaii or you go into even not so much Alaska because it's so remote, but if you think about Hawaii, there's a lot of intermarrying between the different tribes, the different groups that people come from with different ethnicities. They also have a common burial place, very sacred to Native Americans, common burial place. And then they also have basically the right of having a council, kind of a governing council or whatever. So Native Americans they've worked hard to develop a sense of identity with themselves, much more so than I think we do here in America to a certain degree. They've done their best to hold on to that identity. I looked up gender roles. It's interesting. Whenever we look at different groups and different nations, we also often look at, or should look at, the roles that men and women play in the society. When we studied Asia, we looked at the Middle East, we saw that women played no role in that society at all. And that was dictated more by the religion than anything. But we look at America and our culture today, women play a very significant role. We have women that are running for the president or desire to run for the president of the United States. So each different nation, each country, how they view their genders says a lot about them. And it's interesting. In the Native American culture, depending on what tribe you're from, you're as much comes from the mother's line as it does from the father's line. It said for men, for example, men hunted, traded, and made war. In some tribes, the women then had primary responsibility for the survival and welfare of their families and the future of the tribe. So while the men went out and and killed for their food or whatever, the women stayed at home and they were just as responsible for carrying on their line as the men were. It says apart from making homes, women had many additional tasks that were also essential for the survival of the tribes. They made weapons and tools, took care of the roofs of their homes, and often helped their men hunt bison. In some of the Plains Indian tribes, medicine women gathered herbs and cured the ill. So Native Americans, while some tribes different than others, women played a significant role in that. It says the Dakota and Nakota girls were encouraged to learn to ride, hunt, and fight, though fighting was mostly left to the boys and men. Occasionally women fought with them, especially if the tribe was severely threatened. So it's interesting. These women weren't, just women that sat at home in the teepees all day and did nothing. They did as much to protect their tribe, protect their families as everybody else did. All right, so we've moved on. Let's look. So we talk about the Native Americans. Oftentimes that's a lost group we think of when we think of what makes up our people, what makes up culture of the United States. Then we move into, as we're starting to become developed, as we're starting to have settlements. You have St. Augustine in Florida. Raise your hand if you've ever been to St. Augustine in Florida. Has anyone been to that city? I have. It's a very old city, a lot of forts, beautiful city, but it's definitely steeped in tradition. Let's see, some interesting facts about St. Augustine, Florida. Let's see, it's been attacked numerous times. This is interesting. It says slaves were encouraged to flee there. It says racial mores weren't nearly as rigid in Spanish Florida as they were in the British colonies to the north. In fact, to counter its country's numerical disadvantage in the region, King Charles II of Spain proclaimed that runaway slaves from British lands would be given their freedom. So that was Spain's way of ensuring their population growth to grow, or encourage people to settle there if the slaves were told to come there. So that's an interesting way of bringing slaves in and why they brought slaves in. It says the city was a refuge for loyalists during the Revolutionary War. It says alone among the colonies in the present-day United States, the Floridas remained loyal to Britain during the American Revolution. It says residents of St. Augustine often burned effigies of John Hancock and Sam Adams in protest of the Declaration of Independence. So St. Augustine not only had its claim to fame, so to speak, as the oldest country, the first settlement, it was also played significant roles in American history. And it said finally this city was a key location in the civil rights movement. We know how the civil rights movement ended up being just a stronghold in the South, and St. Augustine played a huge part in that. So we talked about the Native Americans. We talked about as the settlements are coming into America, which is St. Augustine. I want to talk a little bit about Jamestown. And if we're honest with ourselves when we get to this part of what makes the United States, a lot of times we start with Jamestown. And it's interesting, has anyone ever been to Jamestown? I know when we lived in Virginia, Jamestown and Williamsburg was a place where you went on field trips. Anyone up here, raise your hand if you've been to Jamestown or Williamsburg. I don't think Abby has. You've been, James? It's steeped in American history. And a lot of times that's where we think our American history starts. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Let's talk about Jamestown a little bit. It says Jamestown colonists resorted to cannibalism. Now, we think of cannibalism being, okay, you have a tribe in the interior of Africa and they're eating one another. Well, it's interesting. When the settlers came to Jamestown, we often hear the stories of how harsh the winters were and how horrible it was, a transition coming from England into this new world where they didn't know how to survive. And it says early reports of cannibalism from the winter survivors were met with skepticism back in England. Of course, the English didn't want to believe that was happening. It says Jamestown dwindled from 300 colonists in November of 1609 to just 60 the following spring. So, about 240 of their people died throughout the winter from starvation, from extreme cold, from whatever the case was. The colonists who lived through the winter called it the starving time and admitted they made it through by eating dogs, snakes, and occasionally people. To me, that just is gross. To think about that Americans who are coming for a better life You got to do what you got to do to survive. We studied in history with the 7th and 8th graders, people as they were making their way to the west and crossing the Sierra Nevadas and crossing different things like that, the harshness and what you do to survive. It's unfortunate what people did to survive. Let's see what else about Jamestown. Some of these, I always like to Google like unknown facts or trivia facts about Jamestown. It's interesting, if you go to Jamestown, if you go to the South at all, I'm not sure if they have it much up here in Pennsylvania. They may do. I think they do in like the Lancaster area, about tobacco. Tobacco is a huge crop. It's a cash crop, so to speak. And it says tobacco grown from smuggled seeds saved Jamestown. Basically, they smuggled the seeds in. It wasn't something that they anticipated growing. It's just something that they smuggled in. It became a cash crop for them. Tobacco brought the first Africans to Jamestown. Tobacco played a significant role not only in the economy, but also bringing the Africans, the slaves, into Jamestown. Let's see let's see what else it says about Jamestown. We talked about how that the General Assembly of Virginia continued to meet in Jamestown until 1669. Then it later moved to Williamsburg, and now, of course, the capital is in Richmond. So Jamestown, so we've gone from the Native Americans, we've gone to some of the early settlements, gone through Jamestown, and then what would be, if you were unmuted and could talk to me in class, I would say what would be the next group people would think of? It would probably be the Pilgrims who landed in Plymouth. And we all know the stories about that, about the same type of things that the people in Jamestown dealt with, the harsh winters, not knowing how to survive, needing help growing food, the Indians help, things like that. So it's just steeped in rich history for the United States. But the bottom line, it says, your book says it, and I reiterated this time and time again. It says most colonists, most people that left a land they knew to come to America, to come to the New World, came to America for one of two reasons: for religious freedom or for the economics, or old immigrants. The old immigrants came because of religious persecution, things like that. The new immigrants are coming for more of the economic opportunities. We see that today with immigration. We'll talk about that tomorrow with the melting pot discussion. People come to America for a lot of reasons. I'm not sure if the religious persecution is as it's higher on the priority list for immigration now. It certainly can be, depending on coming from some of these Middle Eastern cultures, coming from some of the state religion mandated nations, but definitely the economic prosperity that we have here in America, the free enterprise, the ability. I mean, think about what we're going through now, guys, with this COVID-19, with the coronavirus, and all the economic difficulties we're having. But just think about how everyone's coming together and helping one another, getting the medical supplies they need, helping one another. Now we're considering truck drivers essential employees. We're considering fast food restaurant workers essential employees. We're coming together. We have a government that's coming together to help out the American people. So we have a lot of prosperity. We have a lot of opportunity that a lot of these countries don't have. And that's huge coming to America. We need to be thankful that we have that. We've talked about that over and over and over again about the free enterprise that we have, and being thankful for what we have. So let's talk about the United States a little bit. Let's talk about, I always like to talk about what makes people, or what makes a nation a nation. Let me give you a couple of fun facts about the United States. So the deadliest job in the United States would be, someone chat me, tell me what you think the deadliest job in the United States would be. Let me see. John got it right. The president. The president of the United States is the deadliest job that you could have in the United States. It says here that 45 men had held the title. 4 of those men were assassinated in office. 4 died by natural causes. That's a rate of almost 18%, or nearly 1 of every 5 who died on the job. So it's interesting. You think about the most deadliest job, the President of the United States is a deadly job. Let's see what else is interesting about the United States. Interesting, the Declaration of Independence. We talked about getting what are we declaring our independence of? From Britain, declaring our independence. But it's interesting, 8 of the 56 signers were British that signed their Declaration of Independence. The average American throws away 4.4 pounds of trash daily. How many of you guys have gone through more trash in your house since you've been home with, just I don't know if you do paper plates, I do things like that. We are constantly yelling at Jed to take the trash out. Jed's the one that takes the trash out in our house, and he's constantly told, come get the trash. Thank goodness we've not stopped trash service. Trash service actually is considered essential during this time. Thank goodness. But we throw away on the average 4.4 pounds of trash daily. It talks about the Statue of Liberty, isn't actually in New York City. You know exactly where the Statue of Liberty is? Anybody know? You think it's in New York City, and it's actually not. It's actually in Jersey City, New Jersey. So who knew? So let's see. Someone tell me, how many acres of pizza do Americans eat each day? Acres of pizza. 10. Daniel's saying 10. No. Matt, how many? 52? 52 acres. No. James is doing 6. No, it's 100 acres of pizza every day. How much is an acre about? About a football field. So about 100 football fields of pizza we eat every day. Who's eaten a lot of pizza since you've been home? A lot of pizza? We had some pizza just this weekend. We're not big pizza eaters in our family. We like to think we are, but we're not. All right, let's see. Abraham Lincoln was actually in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Fun fact, if you ever go on Jeopardy. Abby's been binge watching Jeopardy since we've been off. So if Abraham Lincoln ever comes up as a category, you are good to go. Did you realize, I've often been asked the question when I've discussed the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, we talked about it in my history class. People are saying, where was the Secret Service? Where was his protection? Did you know actually Lincoln created the Secret Service the day he was assassinated? It says he was assassinated on April 14th. He had just signed legislation in to create the U.S. Secret Service hours before he headed to Ford's Theater. Who knew? If he would have done it a week before then, who knew what would have happened? He may not have been assassinated. Let's see. Do you know who the first face on our $1 bill is? Who was the first face to appear on the $1 bill? Anybody? His name was Salmon P. Chase. It says the first $1 bill was issued during the Civil War in 1862. Chase was the Secretary of Treasury at that time and was also the designer of the country's first banknotes. So if you guys go through and ever get a $1 bill with Salmon Chase's picture on it, I would save it. It's probably worth quite a lot of money at this point. How much did Russia sell Alaska to us for? Who knows? How much? Andrew, I can't read your fingers. 7 million? Nope. Y'all could probably afford this. I'm not good at answers. How about total of, let's see. They actually sold it to us for $7.2 million, but that equated to only about 2 cents an acre. So 2 cents an acre. So if you guys could rub together 2 pennies, you could have bought an acre of land in Alaska at this point. Let's see now. Fun fact, which we all knew because it's an epicenter now of the coronavirus, but more people live in New York City than in most states. That's why, if you've listened to the news at all, I don't know if you like to listen to the news during this time, but we hear about New York is an epicenter of the virus, and a lot of that's because the amount of people that are on top of one another there. Let's see. All right, I would have begged to differ with this before, but do you know which city in America is home to the country's worst drivers? New York? Nope, not New York, Daniel. Nope. You say Virginia, Mateus? Nope, not Virginia. I would say Pennsylvania, but I was wrong. It's actually Boston. Anyone ever driven in Boston? They say that the worst drivers are in Boston. Let's see, what else? Let's see. Okay, who's ever been, oh, okay, let's see. We're going to have 10 minutes left, right, guys? Let's see what else I can do. Oh, Michigan, hunting licenses, they're big. Do you know what is the one animal you can actually get a hunting license for in Michigan, among other things, obviously deer and whatever else, but what animal in Michigan can you actually get a license for to hunt? I can't read your lips, you can chat it, but I would say it is, would anyone have guessed the unicorn? You can actually get a hunting license to hunt unicorn in Michigan. So next time you're in Michigan, you can hunt unicorn. And if you ever lose your luggage in Alabama, you may not ever get it back because they sell all their leftover luggage, like luggage that you would leave or that would be lost in airlines. So interesting. So those are just some fun things. We think of, we think we know our country. We are a great country. We can see that even through what we're going through now with the coronavirus, just how we're coming together, the resources we have. We are a land of opportunity. We're a land of prosperity. We're a land where we're allowed to believe what we want to believe and practice what we believe, which is amazing compared to some of the other nations we've talked about. So we're going to stop here. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the melting pot, immigration. We're going to talk about all the nuances to that. I really miss having interaction with you guys. I love the class discussion. I'm huge on class discussion, and talking to a camera on Zoom is not really my idea of discussing. Some of you guys may actually prefer it this way. I don't know. I like to hear how your day is going. I like to see how you guys are doing. Is everything going okay with all your classes today? Kind of getting back in the swing of things? Well, just remember, ThinkWave's going to be your friend. Please make sure you stay on ThinkWave, keep updated on ThinkWave. When you go in for your classes, make sure you pick the right day, pick the right time, because you're going to start seeing a ton of different classes come up on your dashboard. I'm going to also put a letter out either today or tomorrow, which is some contact information for me, my email address, my cell number if you need to text me something that's for you or your parents just because our communication avenues are a lot different now. So I would love this for us to be back in school at some point in a couple of weeks. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll do our best. So, okay, guys, well, have a good night. I'm going to head and get off. I think you guys are done for the day, right? Is this your last class for the day? All right, turn it off. If you have homework to do, you don't have any homework for me. I don't know if you have homework for other people. But anyway, enjoy your afternoon. We will see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you all. I'll see Spanish in the morning, and I'll see you guys at 2 o'clock. All right? See you guys later. I'm in the meeting. Have a great day.